Welcome to the Lead Change podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Mulcahey. I'm an orthopedic sports medicine surgeon with a huge interest in contributing to the growth and development of other leaders. On this podcast, we will share stories from many leaders in all medical specialties to understand the skills necessary to be an effective leader. We'll celebrate their success and hear about strategies to overcome hurdles. We will also highlight some of the unique challenges faced by women in medicine who are interested in pursuing leadership positions and the importance of mentorship, sponsorship, and allyship in achieving and being successful in those roles. Let's work together, build on shared experiences, learn from those before us, and use these lessons to propel us forward in our career. Let's lead change. Welcome everyone to the Lead Change podcast. I am truly honored to have my sports medicine colleague and most supportive mentor, Dr. Matt Provencher, as our guest on the podcast today. Dr. Provencher grew up in Barrington, New Hampshire, and then attended the United States Naval Academy, where he was appointed the Deputy Brigade Commander, which is second in command, graduated with distinction with a major in electrical engineering. During his undergraduate years, Dr. Provencher was a 4-year varsity oarsman and 2-time first-team All-American at Navy and named Most Valuable Oarsman. He completed his medical education at Dartmouth Medical School, where he graduated with honors and was elected to the Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society. He also recently received the Distinguished Alumni Award from Dartmouth. Dr. Provencher completed his orthopedic surgery residency at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego and his orthopedic shoulder, knee, and sports medicine fellowship at Rush University. He has received numerous academic and research awards, including the 2025 AAOS Kappa Delta Research Award, which celebrated 25 years of shoulder research in the military. This is considered by many in the world of orthopedics as the top honor in the field. He has published 420 peer-reviewed articles and has authored 8 textbooks. Dr. Provencher was selected for several prestigious traveling fellowships focused on leadership, including the AOA John Fahey North American Traveling Fellowship, the ABC Fellowship, and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine Traveling Fellowship. He has received numerous peer-reviewed grants. He's an executive board founding member of MOTION, which is Military Orthopedic Tracking Injuries Network, a program that is dedicated to helping study musculoskeletal injuries and human performance in the military system and use the data to help design injury prevention programs. Dr. Provencher is an incredibly well-respected sports medicine surgeon at the Steadman Clinic in Vail. He's the director of the Steadman Philippon Research Institute Sports Fellowship and designated institutional officer, and he serves as team physician for the United States ski team. In 2021, Dr. Provencher also earned his MBA from Purdue University Global and was inducted into Delta Mu Delta National Business Administration Honors Society. He's a highly regarded second opinion physician for numerous professional organizations, including the NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Dr. Provencher retired from the U.S. Navy after 27 years of honorable service, with his last duty station as the senior medical officer at Navy SEAL Team 17 in Coronado. Matt has been a tremendously supportive mentor for me for many years now. We first met when I was getting ready to start my sports medicine fellowship in San Diego. One of the previous Navy ortho residents connected us after I expressed my interest in doing research with Matt while I was in San Diego for fellowship. He was kind and welcoming to me from the beginning. We have collaborated on several projects and worked together through various committees within AAOS and our sports medicine societies. He is truly an exceptional leader, and I have learned so much from him over the past several years. I'm excited for him to share a bit about his leadership journey and some of the things he has learned in his various roles with everyone listening. So Matt, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Murray, it's a great pleasure. The introduction is way too long, of course, but I really appreciate it. Certainly, I know my mom would, but that's besides the point. It's been a great journey. I'm really proud of you and what you're doing, and nothing really brings more joy to me than seeing people like you succeed and all the great things you've gone on to do. I knew that from day one of meeting you, the incredible journey you would be on and continue to be on. So it's a great pleasure to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So before we dive into some of the specific leadership aspects of your practice and your career, can you tell us a little bit about your clinical practice, really highlighting your areas of expertise and interest?
Sure. My main practice is shoulder, knee, sports surgery, as you say, mostly arthroscopic, although in the shoulder world do a lot of open surgery, and that includes arthroplasty, open shoulder repair, Bankart repair, open bone procedures, revision procedures, all kinds of things. And in the knee, I do basically everything short of arthroplasty. So like really a lot of sports medicine, ligament surgery, revision ligament surgery, meniscus transplant, cartilage transplant, osteotomies, complex knee injuries and multi-ligament stuff. So we like all of it in that shoulder and knee realm, except the full knee replacement. I took that off my practice maybe 15 years ago, and you definitely don't want me doing your knee replacement.
Yeah, that's awesome. A huge mix of procedures, very complex things all mixed in there. But I think, every day you're doing something a little bit different, and that certainly keeps you learning all the time, and your fellows and the students and your PAs that are working with you. And so I know that they really enjoy that too.
I would say we're not bored with the
No,
practice.
you're definitely not
Well, you
bored
never
there.
know.
You have done a lot of truly incredible research in your career. And I mentioned briefly in the introduction that you are an executive board founding member of Motion. So huge congratulations. I know that was a ton of effort. So can you explain to everyone listening what was involved with creating Motion and what that program entails?
Well, first of all, I really need to thank the entire team that's behind that. Certainly people like John Dickens, JT Tokish, Gene Petkowski, so many others in the military have really done some incredibly heavy lifting, and now to the point where Andy Sheehan and many others are, carrying the torch forward. And what we knew, what we had to do much better in all of our worlds was collect outcomes better, collect outcomes in the military better. What was very unique about the military is we had one common EMR. Our EMR is the same across all services. It is the world's largest EMR for a single type of system. Epic's a little bit different, that they have many different systems and you can't connect, but we're all connected. And I could look my patient up if they moved from San Diego, where I was practicing, if they moved to Guam, and I could check out their physical therapy notes and have access to that because they were my patients. So it was really kind of cool to do that. And so what we decided was, a long time ago, we had to collect our outcomes better. JT Tokish and I literally sat down at, I think, the Academy meeting in 2002 or 2003, and on a piece of napkin, we sketched out what would be reasonable outcomes to collect. And we had some okay ones back then at the time in the shoulder and knee world. And we said, okay, well, let's just at least start with these. We put together and went back and forth on email with some Word document that ended up being like 28 pages, way too long for outcomes collection for a patient. We got to cut this down. So we took that back to the drawing board and got that down to about 9 or 10 pages, probably still too long, but we learned a lot from it. And what was incredible was we just started printing these out. He and I shared, and we had what we called a coalition of the willing, just really put together a lot of our outcomes, a lot of our research, and collect as much as we could. We had great corpsmen, we had great medical staff that helped us, and were just interested in the military. So we were able to collect a lot of this on paper, but we knew we needed to evolve. And so that's where Motion was born, and huge credit to John Dickens and many others who really shepherded this. And he actually came up with a name, which I love, the Military Orthopedic Tracking Injury and Outcomes Network. And now well over 250,000 patients have been enrolled, and it's really a special system to be able to make impact in our military men and women that have all sorts of injuries.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces about this as you guys have been working on it over the past several years, but I think, like you touched on, it is a huge advantage to have that sort of unified medical record. Like that is fantastic, to be able to follow these patients at all the different, all these different areas of the military where they can end up, and you can still track their outcomes, how they're doing in clinic, how they're doing with physical therapy. And so it's amazing that you guys are using that data to really improve patient outcomes, to follow them long term, and to modify our procedures and our techniques. So I can't wait to see what continues to come out of that. And what, in working in that role, what are some of the most important leadership lessons that you've learned being part of Motion?
So part of it in the military was, and this is not unlike anywhere else. You may work at some university where you're chronically understaffed in research, you're chronically understaffed with research assistants, you don't have the infrastructure set up for data collection or iPads or anything of that nature. So that was no different than what JT Tokish and I were kind of starting with. fortunately, again, we found that kind of coalition of the willing where we just sat down and we sort of knew how to make it happen. And, we said, all right, here's I'm buying lunch today. Here's pizza for the clinic team, and let's just do a good job collecting our as good as we can our outcomes today. And it's just little things like that really helped remind people. In a busy clinic, we're all busy, and if we ask any of our team to do even another 2 to 3 minutes of work, that's hard in our day. And so the biggest lesson was trying to be efficient, to leverage your resources, to lead a team, to lead a research team, for you to do it and be at the front of it, and collecting and sitting down with the patient as much as my corpsman was. And they learned and did it. And I think that is just the biggest lesson was building the team, and then perseverance, a little bit of determination, a little bit of grit, because again, the military system is no different than a lot of academic systems or other types of funding. In our extramural funding situations, it's challenging. And so to be able to have the perseverance to go through the tough times, the times that are not so easy, and then all of a sudden something hits when you least expect it. And that's sort of when Motion came out, and that's a longer story, but a good one in terms of how we petitioned the government for grant money to study this, because at the end of the day, we actually were saving the government quite a bit of money by injury prevention and other programs we were putting in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you raised a lot of good points there too, and just really highlighting the aspect or the importance of the team, right? That to make this happen required everyone, all the military physicians, as you highlighted early on, but every member of your team in the clinic, in the OR, the extra time, like all of that, 1 or 2 or 3 minutes per patient times 30 patients in a day. I mean, it's a lot of extra time. And so you guys really had a great approach to getting everybody on the same page, really working towards a common goal. And then I'm sure, they all see the value of doing that. So congratulations. I know that was a tremendous effort.
Thank you. Total team effort. Again,
Yeah.
it's just, it started with a little bit of a small vision, and it's grown massively, but it's really a lot of the other folks. Yeah. The other thing that I don't want to overemphasize this, but it's important, is our subspecialty society. So what was extremely helpful was, not just we had the record, military record and health record, et cetera, but we also had SOMOS, just like you have POSNA and ANA and AOSSM and shoulder and elbow and AUKUS and et cetera. And then you have the BOS research arm, and you have other ways to do it. So utilizing your subspecialty, we use SOMOS to spread the word, to have meetings, to use our annual meeting at SOMOS to figure that out. And I know a lot of societies do that and bring together groups, and I know a number, and we just had one of our former fellows here who's now spearheaded and helped build a team around many other POSNA type of studies in sports medicine that POSNA has helped really cultivate. And so it's been great to see, but it's all the same type of thing, trying to build that group, build that network, use your subspecialty societies, build your team, buy your folks pizza every now and then. It goes a long way.
It does go a long way. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up SOMOS. And just for anybody listening who doesn't know what SOMOS is, that is the Society of Military Orthopedic Surgeons. Most of my closest friends, mentors are active duty or retired military and are very involved in SOMOS. And so that is a fantastic society, really important, excellent contributions academically and with regards to this research. So really good point about involving SOMOS, and that has really helped lead to the success of this project as well. So you have served in numerous very important leadership roles, including as Director of Surgical Services for the U.S. Navy Mercy. What were some of your responsibilities in that role?
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity, Mary. So in the Navy, you just can't be an orthopedic surgeon. You can't do joint replacements or spine or sports or whatever. Everyone in the military also has to have another job. And that job is generally, it could be backfilling a clinic overseas. It could be being on a committee at the hospital somewhere. It could be being as part of a deployed surgical unit team. But in this case, I was assigned to the USNS Mercy, which is our hospital ship. There were two hospital ships, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, the Comfort and the Mercy. The Mercy is West Coast. It's actually a converted oil tanker. It's about 1,000 feet long. Most can maybe have 12 or 1,300 people on it. It has 1,000 beds as a hospital. It's crazy. It's got a CT scan. It has 11 operating rooms. It's got a cardiology suite that's really slick. It's very, very robust. And so as part of our job, and I started not right away as the director of surgical services for the USNS Mercy, but I got assigned as the assistant director of surgical services. So I did that for a couple of years. And then the next almost 5 years, I was a surgical service director. And so anytime that the ship was getting called, you were the surgical services director, and it could involve anything like ophthalmology or ENT or cataract surgery, or a lot of times orthopedics and other things. But it's like anyone at our hospital, a director of surgical services. You're a surgical services for the USNS Mercy, which is a separately credentialed, fully functioning hospital. Believe it or not, that ship is a fully functioning, credentialed, independent hospital with pharmacy and medical folks and every specialty. And we were able to flex it based on the mission. So my bags were always packed in my garage to be able to leave within 24 or 36 hours. And sometimes we did. And sometimes we left for 4 months at a time, 6 months at a time, 7 months at a time, depending on what was going on. But we also did a lot of training with the ship, and we did a lot of multinational missions in which we were deployed overseas and working with a variety of different foreign nations, all set up through the State Department. So it was a very high level mission, but it was really a medical mission, and where we had tons of experts. And I did very little orthopedics, of course. It was all leadership and making sure that the 750 folks that were working for me were all organized. And you can imagine this was a bit of a challenge. We had our vision, we had our mission, we had to make sure we had patient safety as a first and foremost. But when you have 20 different militaries from all over the world, not all are English as first language, and you have another 15 to 20 what we call NGOs, or non-government organizations, great people such as Operation Smile, Project Hope, all sorts of other folks that would join us on the ship for a variety of times. Sometimes it's a week and a half at a time. Sometimes it's for 6 weeks. Sometimes it's for all 6 months. But we had all kinds of different people and all different kinds of specialties that were part of this mission to provide humanitarian aid and disaster relief. So it was an incredible leadership opportunity to have 700 really high qualified folks working in an austere environment and making sure we were providing the best, safest care for all of our humanitarian patients.
Yeah, what an incredible experience and unique opportunity to work with so many people, but so many different types of medical professionals and these other organizations and people from outside, within and outside of the United States. And so I'm sure that you learned a ton, which has certainly you've carried with you and in numerous other roles that you've held, but truly a unique experience.
Mary, it's interesting in that we have I'd challenge you to go back about 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago and remember your last trauma case, your last tibial nail, your last knee scope, or your rotator cuff, or whatever, right? But that is indelible in my memory because of the incredible opportunities it presented. It was incredibly challenging because of the leadership challenges, and my bosses are like, Provencher, we cannot have a surgical incident. We cannot have a wrong site surgery, of course, cannot have a wrong patient surgery, can't have a bad outcome. And I look at my ophthalmologists who are stellar all-stars and they're doing a ton of cataract surgeries. I said, well, how hard are these cataracts out here in Indonesia? And they're like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're about an 18 because the lenses are so thin.
Wow.
Cataract surgery, like none of us do, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a little bit smarter on cataract surgery so we need to minimize the risk of, something bad happening. So it was kind of cool. Maybe I should have paid a little bit better attention in medical school, but it was it was an incredible journey because of the leadership opportunities. There were some hard decisions that had to be made at times. There were some really tough situations, but that's all about your personal growth. I had an incredible team that you assembled, and it was really a very high fidelity team that we had put together, and still many of my really great colleagues and friends to this day, most not in orthopedics.
Yeah, and so it's such a unique opportunity in that sense too, where you're working so closely with physicians outside of orthopedics, and so that's great. And you develop those friendships, and you support each other, and there's still like opportunities to interact as you move forward in your career. But because so much of what we do obviously is centered around orthopedics, so what a unique opportunity to become so close with other physicians. Um, Switching gears a little bit, you are very actively involved in high-level research. We touched on that. You're really actively involved in education for the sports medicine fellows, mentoring many students, residents, and practicing surgeons, and of course, providing exceptional patient care. So can you share with everyone what is the main driving force and motivation in all that you do?
Oh, I don't know. I've started to reflect on that a little bit more now, just as life continues to move on. And I think we have all these different phases of life and challenges that are posed to us. And yeah, we get through medical school, and how you get through match, and how you do a residency match, and how you deal with the military and trying to go to fellowship, and then dealing with fellowship matches, the timing. I mean, there's all these phases of life. Then you pass your boards, and you get through your boards, and then you do your first boards research, then you do your second boards research. I'm like, am I going to do another boards research? Maybe it might be right on the edge. This might be my last one. I don't know. Did it a few years ago. So, but you have all these different phases of life. So what motivates, I guess, someone like me as I start to think about this through all these different phases is it's really a thirst for trying to really help our profession in a way, to help our patients, to help others. I really view this as not about, like you and I anymore, Mary. This is about everyone else we're training now and involved with. You're highly involved in education and training. I think this is a big part of us giving back at this point. Is they're going to do it. I tell my fellows this all the time. You're going to do this much better than we are, to be honest. You're going to have better tools. It's going to be slicker. You're going to be like, wow, I can't believe Provencher Mulcahey used to do this ACL this way. It's never going to be done that way anymore. And so it's I think it's a very unique time, but I think the biggest thing for me is just wanting to continue to give back. And whether it's trying to help with research, if it's hard for me, it might be hard for someone else out there from a technique standpoint. How do we better the technique? How do we innovate? How do we make this easier? I always tell my fellows, surgery's hard. I still find surgery's hard, and we got to find ways to make it easier, better for our patients, and really try to maximize our patient outcomes. As long as we're having that patient at the center of our focus, what are we doing? It's research, it's innovation, it's technology, it's teaching. That I think is what's continued to drive someone like me.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I mean, you really are selfless. You help people, so many different people in so many different areas of their life and career, and you are always putting everybody else before yourself. And so I think just from a personal standpoint, certainly that's something that just makes you exceptional, and that a lot of people try to emulate. And you really like embody that in your comments there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, in terms of other important leadership roles, you served as the head team physician for the Patriots when you worked at Mass General Hospital. And if I recall correctly, the Patriots won the Super Bowl the first year that you were there, which is amazing, and I'm sure is largely due to the excellent patient care that they received. But
10% now.
but what was
This
it
guy
like?
Brady, not so good. No, I don't know. No. I
What
was
was it like for
right
you?
team, right place.
What was it like for you to serve as head team physician? And really, what were some of the important initiatives that you implemented for the team?
Yeah. So, first of all, I loved it. And the team is exactly that. It's a huge, huge, huge group of people that provide medical care for 53 players plus 10 practice squad plus their families and a lot of the staff that are around Foxborough working there, because they're busy. Anytime you think we are busy in our day-to-day life, I would challenge you to find an athletic trainer that works full-time for a team, a physical therapist works full-time for the team. Guarantee you they're working harder, more hours. And people like Jim Whalen took me under his wing, and just an incredible human being who was the head athletic trainer for the New England Patriots. And it's just like when I was working in the Navy and we were taking care of the SEAL team folks, I'd learned way more about musculoskeletal medicine and how to take care of patients and manage it holistically from our physical therapists, from our athletic trainers. And this was no exception. The Patriots was exactly that. And so working closely with Jim Whalen and the gazillion physical therapists we had, the athletic trainers, assortment of, I had a Rolodex, very on the phone of, in a spreadsheet of, 73 medical professionals that called all the time. And that wasn't orthopedics. It was like almost being like on the USNS Mercy again. It was dermatology, it was OB-GYN, it was ENT, it was plastics, it was infectious disease, general surgery, you name it, any medical professional, we were calling to get the best possible care for the patient. And they were so happy to be a part of it. So a big part was optimizing the team, optimizing our efficiencies, our communication, ensuring all of us were on the same page, optimizing return to play protocols using best medical evidence, trying to get our players back more efficiently, but also safely. And that was a big push that we made for the several years that I was there. And it was a job that I loved. It was fantastic working with people like the Crafts, Robert and Jonathan, Jim Whalen, Belichick. That whole crew is really, was very special. And not the least of which were some pretty darn good players like Tom Brady and Gronkowski and Edelman and Amendola, and so many great ones.
Yeah, that is amazing. And you raised like so many important points there. And I think one of the key things is about communication, very clear communication, and making sure you're all on the same page. And that's critical in everything that we do every day, but especially in such a big team. When you have the players and you have the coaches and you have the owners and you have the physical therapists and athletic trainers, and just making sure everyone is on the same page so you know what the plan is for any particular player or, whatever it is you guys are dealing with. But you also raised the point about working closely and working well with the athletic trainers and the physical therapists. And I agree with that completely. And I have learned so much from the athletic trainers and physical therapists that I've worked with in all aspects of my career, including, being here at Loyola and taking care of women's basketball and other sports. Like, they are absolutely critical to really providing excellent patient care. So it's all a team. That's what I tell my patients too. It's all a team. The surgery or what we do is a tiny part of them getting better. It's really what everybody else does too, which is critical.
No question.
Yeah. So
we're blessed. We're blessed in orthopedics in that, we have the ability to touch so many other specialties and interact with so many specialties. And it's not, no disrespect to any of other colleagues in other specialties, but orthopedics is so unique. We get to work with our physical therapists, our occupational therapists, our athletic trainers, our nutritionists, our mental health psychologists, psychiatrists, the list goes on and on and on and that's not even the start. I work closely with my GI doctors on the Patriots and taking care of our proteins, or internal medicine docs. It's very unique what we have in orthopedics, and all specialties can encompass that in orthopedics. It's really very cool.
I agree with that completely. And I think that some people outside the field may not realize that, but we certainly do. And like, it's one of the things that we love the most about it. So have there been any really specific or kind of pivotal roles? Would you define pivotal roles in your career that have really shaped who you are now as a leader?
That's a good one. A pivotal role. I would say there's really nothing pivotal. I think it's been a journey. And I talked about this at one of the academy meetings. We did a little interview of panel discussion about things we wish we had done maybe a little bit differently, and certain how we do things, how we entertain things. I mean, one of the things I reflected on, I said, I wish, and I wouldn't do it any differently, but I said, if someone said, what would you change? Or was there one defining moment for you or something like that? And I said, look, here's what I would say to that is, I probably should have been a little more patient, and not that I was like, in your face. It was just my personal inner drive that you talked about, that many of us have in orthopedics. It's a very competitive specialty. We're used to being driven. We're used to getting the job done and doing reasonably well in school and reasonably well in medical school and having choices and opportunities. That being said, the reason I'm talking about that is I think this is all a journey, and you're going to have choices along the way of where you're going to have to make. There's some forks in the road, and you're going to have to say yes to some things or no to some things. And some of those no's could be hard, and some of those yeses might be a little easier, but they also may be hard. And I think the pivotal moments are just, for me, just all additive of some of the things that I've said yes to. And, unfortunately, some of the things I said no to, is just not enough time in the day for all of us to do everything. And so you have to be really careful about that. I think patience is something I think we really need to continue to focus on. Things will just happen and be given to people that do really good things. It's just people find people that do good stuff. And those pivotal moments, I think, are just truly a journey along the way of several of these things I've done.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think things absolutely work out the way they're supposed to, 100%. And that patience is so important. And I'm not the best with patience. You know that. But many of us,
I was looking at you. No, I mean, and myself.
I'm working on it. But no, I think that it's really valuable advice, and perhaps it was directed straight towards me, but I think that many of us can take that away. And I think I'm working on it. I'm becoming more patient. I totally agree with what you're saying. And I know that things do work out. And sometimes you just wait and you keep doing the work. And that everything comes together. And also you made a valuable point too about knowing when to say no, when you can't do something, and then when you can do something when you want to. I definitely really now evaluate everything, as I'm sure you do. Every time you're presented with an option, does it fit with your mission, vision, and goals? And that helps you make those decisions. But so important, because you're right, we can't do everything.
And then it's just like residency in a way. It's progressive responsibility, progressive opportunity. There are decisions that you might be faced with just personally become, a little, not higher stakes, but they're just maybe a little bit more important about where you want to go with your life and what you want to do, or what contributions you want to be a part of, or what societies you want to be a part of, and give back to and volunteer to, what you want to do at your hospital, what you want to be involved with in committees, what you want to be extramural, what you want to do with research, not the least of which, and all the other, your personal life and how that is handled. And so you have to be a little bit careful with that and make the right decisions as best you can. And sometimes you just don't know, but what I do say is when you make a decision, pour your heart and soul into it, and then the next opportunity will come before you know it. And those are all opportunities in societies and hospitals and committees and life and leadership positions. And then you're starting to get in much more graduated responsibility in terms of decision making, because now the decisions that you're involved with, say as an executive board or part of an executive leadership team, are becoming much more significant and potentially affecting a lot of people's lives, and mainly physicians and other providers and medical professionals. So I think that, and not the least of which are, our patients. We want to make sure we're making the right decisions, but that's all part of the journey of leadership.
Yeah, that is such good advice. And as we grow and evolve in our careers, like, we are constantly refining our leadership style. Like, I certainly have had that experience. I've seen that in many others as well. But how would you describe your leadership style, and in what ways do you find that to be really effective?
So one of the main principles of leadership and how you view it is, if you look at what is leadership, it's about, it is accomplishing a goal, an organization's mission, a vision through people. And so it's all about the people. And so if you really take a step back and think about that, how do you best accomplish, could be two or three of you, it could be making coffee at a coffee shop. How are you going to best do that coffee? How are you going to get your throughput? How are you going to do that? All of that is through people, and having the baristas work closely together, having your operating room team work closely together. All of that is super important in terms of how that team is put together, how the fidelity is of the team. Is it high fidelity? Is it low? Is it well communicated? And so everything goes back, I think, to that very simple principle of accomplishing some type of goal through people. And how do you best do that? I always ascribe to the tenets of even if, say, you're a leader, just being a great team member. You have to be humble. Humility gets you everywhere. Doing things that not others would necessarily do, but you're doing them. Leadership's hard. The leaders are the ones that, guess what? They have to stay longer. They're there earlier. A lot of times they're there later. Communication's critical. Open door policy, building trust, building rapport, that special trust and confidence, as we call it, super important to build that with your people. So they're going to be your best advocates at the end of the day. It's like your patients. You take great care of our patients. Who is our best referral source out there in the community? Our patients. And why is that? Because we take great care of them. We communicate well with them. Do the same thing with your team, the same thing with your organization you're involved with. You take great care of your people. You understand them. You know them. You know what makes them tick. You know their special talents. And that's why we like the diversity in talents and thoughts, because we want that group think to have a lot of that input. At the end of the day, it might have to come down to one decision, but we've gone around the table. We've entertained everyone's email or input, and we put together the best possible decision to accomplish the goal. But as part of that communication, I think is super important. It's just like being with the Patriots is having something, and I don't say written, it's not always the right way, but having both verbal cues, nonverbal cues, but also written communications, or just simple things such as a standard operating policy. How do we do this? How do we entertain this aspect? Well, you should be able to turn to page 63 of this handbook to be able to figure that out. And the organization should rally behind that and understand, yeah, we've got a pretty good setup here. We just go to the handbook, figure it out. And so that's part of the communication. And then the last is just really the biggest one is leadership by example. And if you're not doing it, then no one else can do it. So I was sitting in my office one day in the Navy and Friday afternoon, and knock, knock, knock. And Captain Dana Covey, one of the greatest leaders I've known, he was my boss. And he rolls in, Dana Covey rolls in, and he's my boss. And keep in mind, he's deployed about 15 times, 11 times, 13 times at this point. No one's deployed more than him. And he's done it all, done everything. And he knocks on my head. He's like, Provencher, I need you to deploy. I'm like, is he going to be, how long is it? When am I going? When do I need to leave? And then you can't really say no, because a guy like Dana Covey's already gone 15 times and I've gone several. And I'm like, sure. Dana, what do you need? Happy to help. Where are we going? What are we doing? It's not the easiest pill to swallow at the end of the day. Sometimes you're going away from your family, your loved ones. Sometimes it's 6 months, 7 months. And my hat's off to all these folks that have done this, continue to do this. So that leadership by example is critical. And you sit there and smile. And you're like, dang, this guy hadn't gone himself, I'd be like rolling my eyes, but can't say no to someone who's done it and led it the ultimate by example.
Yeah, such important points. And really just emphasizing the importance of the team again, and working to the strengths, leveraging the strengths of the team, which you are a master at. I've seen that in action in multiple committees, but really it makes everyone feel valued and that they're contributing. And I know that is certainly a priority for you. And you have worked with, and you continue to work with many teams, including the team within AOSSM that you work with. So you were recently elected second vice president of the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine. So huge congratulations. That is an incredible achievement. As you look, and you've already started your term in the presidential line, but what are some of your goals for serving as second VP, first VP, and then moving into your term as president?
Yeah, Mary, thank you very much. Again, it's a team effort at the end of the day, and the AOSSM is an incredible organization. It's very robust, extremely vibrant, an incredible membership that's really dedicated to the betterment of patient care in all aspects of sports medicine. That could be from the kid all the way up to the 85-year-old pickleball player. It doesn't matter. And that's why I love that society is the volunteer organizations we have, the volunteer spirit, the culture, and truly wanting to use science, the best medical evidence, coupled with experiential findings and what works and what doesn't work for betterment of patient care and all about our patients is what I'm really most excited about continuing. We've gone recently through a strategic plan, so continuing that strategic plan for the organization, helping our patients and really helping our members continue to thrive in practice. I think there's been times, and I'm certainly have felt this when I was like, medicine's becoming potentially a little bit of a grind. It's hard. Administration's hard. The notes are hard. It's hard taking care of patients, and there's just a lot of roadblocks in the way. And whatever we can do, and you leverage our societies from big society, the AAOS, and cultivating the AOS and AOSSM and subspecialty society relationships, I think is very important because we're stronger together than apart. We need advocacy. We need the pack to advocate for our patients and for us so that we can do the best thing and to help us with some challenges I think our profession is facing. And that's not the least of which is some level of burnout and whatever you want to call it mild or moderate, or maybe not even put a category on it. It's real and it's there. But I got to tell you, I'm really getting excited again with all of this stuff going on with AI, how to get smarter about our notes, how to be more efficient with our notes, how to be our op notes, our clinic notes, our insurance notes, our insurance reviews. Our insurance companies are using AI on us. We should be using AI on the front end. The first thing they put the note through is through AI, and we got to be better about this. There's little things we need to do collectively that use the best medical evidence to make sure our practice is thriving and that people love driving to work. That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah, and AOSSM really is on the cutting edge of many of those things. Certainly surgical technique, patient care, team physician aspects. Leadership is a huge area of emphasis within AOSSM, starting at the youngest members of AOSSM. And then things like AI, which I think you're right, are absolutely critical. For you too, I know a few years ago you obtained your MBA. And you are an incredibly busy surgeon, right, with numerous other responsibilities and roles. So I wonder, what was your motivation for putting in the time and effort to obtain this additional degree? And how does that tie into, with AOSSM or your position at Stedman? What value did you think that was going to bring?
So this goes back to, I think even when in college, and I loved a lot of my economics classes and many of the other business classes I was able to take, which is kind of hard if you're doing sort of a medical track. I was an electrical engineer, so it was very hard. I had to get all my engineering stuff in, but I love the economic stuff I was taking. When I got to medical school at Dartmouth, I actually had applied to Tuck. I was going to be one of the first MD MBAs, but we had to apply. They were thinking of whether or not to waive the GMAT. It was that early, the graduate medical admissions test. So now most of us can, in our profession, you get the GMAT waived if you got, if you're an MD program, but that still was on the table. These were very new type of programs. One of my classmates, actually, we were talking about it. He actually went through with it. I was going to go through with it, but the Navy said, you have to go to San Diego and start your internship. They had me slotted in there, and Provencher, you're going to go here and do this. And that all worked out great. So I'd always had this inclination to do some level of business degree. I didn't know what it looked like. I sort of had forgotten about it and not really done it, although business is a big part of what we do every day in so many different levels, as we all know. You sort of get an on-the-job degree. I wanted to formalize a little bit more. So I got a little bit bored during COVID and picked it up during then. Right before COVID, I started and kind of amped it. I started a year or two before COVID and then amped it up during COVID and got bored and finished it up then. So.
Well, that's amazing. I actually had not heard that story about the interest really as early as medical school. So that's fantastic that you had the interest, had the opportunity, and took advantage of having a little bit of extra time, which for us, like a little bit of extra time, like definitely you could put it to good use. So that's amazing. And I know that it's hugely valuable in what you're doing every day in your clinical practice.
People ask a lot. Marion, people ask a lot. I think it was another part of your question, like what does that offer? What does that do? Does it help you run your practice better? Does it help you run this? Does it help you be fellowship director better? I don't know about a lot of that stuff. I can tell you it does help in many ways you may not even realize. In societies, my job is AAOS annual meeting committee chair. We take a very customer management relationship type of approach, and our main customers being us, orthopedic surgeons, the AOS. How do we provide the best possible product? And again, we're continuing to refine it, continuing to make very data-driven decisions. And our vendors and our other important partners within the AOS, how do we best optimize that and really take a business case look at a lot of the things we're doing, yet still provide a super high-end education product, which we know how to do. It's how do we do everything else even better to make this the best meeting. So that's been a fun project to do with the business degrees. Some of the society work, some executive committee on the society work is very helpful. As a lot of it's about budgets and membership and dues and fees, and how can you get creative? How can you think outside the box? How do you balance the books? How much should we go in debt? What should nonprofits be doing versus not nonprofits? There's a lot of things that come up in terms of financial management. It's not just about necessarily managing your practice, a lot of other things outside it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been an incredible application of the MBA and a really analytical approach. And you've looked at things in ways that no one else has, like within the academy and with other organizations. And I know that they have really appreciated that, and you've been able to help lead the team in implementing really significant changes that actually the academy members appreciate. So that is the MBA in action, and really fantastic to see how we've all benefited from that, actually.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate it. But again, that's a team effort, and people at AOSSM and people at the academy that are doing great work. The full-time staff, many of them have business degrees, have JDs, have other advanced degrees, and it's really it's fun to sit around the table and talk business shop in a way. It's really cool.
Very smart people.
We know how to do education. We know how to do orthopedics. We know how to do technical. We know for the most part, what to put together. We're always taking some calculated risks. Not all work out. We know that, but we got to take some calculated risks to completely innovate the meeting and our goal. And I've always set out the goal to be, we need to be the best, most innovative, most cutting edge medical meeting in the world, period, end of story. What are we going to do to get there? We got to make it great for our members. We got to make the society great for our members. And then not the least of which, make the benefit seen for our patients.
Yeah, absolutely. Because members benefit and then our patients benefit in turn. So fantastic. For sure. So Matt, coming up to the end here, but I wanted to ask you two questions that I like to ask everyone. So first question is, have you read any leadership books that you've found to be particularly impactful or influential?
So it's interesting. John F. Kennedy used to write some small books. He has some small things out there that are really small, they're under-recognized, but JFK has several leadership titles. One of his favorite sayings, and I would have loved to meet JFK, he's a really incredible human, but one of his famous sayings was, leadership and learning are indispensable to one another. And I think that is a really important concept, if you really think about that for a second, that all the things we do with learning and teaching all surround leadership and how we do it, how you interact with people, how you train people, how the patient is part of the learning program, how your team does it, et cetera. There's so much there. Some of the books that I've enjoyed, and these go back a long time, but Jocko Willink has obviously written a really good one on extreme ownership and how to truly embolden your team with the ability to go to the highest level. Stephen Covey's written some great stuff as well that I really love. All the Great Habits books and the Great Habits series that he has is really good as well. So there's so many great books out there, but those are a few. And some short reads are by Admiral Bill McRaven called Make Your Bed and Lessons of the Bullfrog, and some others. He was a great leader, still is a great leader, and has some really incredible practical lessons about team building, leadership, some stuff from the military, but it's applicable to business, to a hedge fund manager, to running an AOS meeting, to being on the executive board of your specialty society. All of it's super valuable.
Yeah, those are all great examples, and many of which I have not heard of. I love the ties to the military too, and I think that's one of the things that I admire about you guys the most is all the leadership training, how it's built into your military education. Certainly, that's not part of regular medical education, so that's awesome to hear some of those like readings that are tied to that. And I did finally read Extreme Ownership. Right, it took me a while to get to the book, but it's an excellent book. I can attest to that too. So you touched on this a little bit, but do you have a favorite quote?
JFK, leadership and learning are indispensable to one another. Think about
Awesome.
it. Think about how we teach. Think about how we learn. Think about what we do. It's everything we do. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun to come to work is, if we're just going in to make same donuts every day, that's going to get boring and old. Make it intriguing, make it fun, interact with your team, interact with trainees. If you don't have trainees, there's plenty of other ways to interact, to train your team, to train your OR staff, to really make your day truly inspiring every day.
Yeah, yeah, we're so important. You're absolutely right. We need to love what we do and really appreciate the impact that we have on the people we're teaching, the people we interact with, and certainly our patients. So Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It has really been incredible to share this time with you and to hear about some of the many successes in your career. I really appreciate you sharing these lessons with us. I think everyone will take a lot from this discussion. And just thank you so much for all that you do to help so many different people. So thank you again.
Mary, it was incredible, a great honor to be on here tonight, and so proud of you and all you've done. And keep up the great work. You're an incredible leader on an incredible journey as well, and super proud of everything you've done. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you. And look forward to catching up again sometime soon.
Thanks.